Okay, you're the best.
You need a ride?
Hey? Peter, let's go.
Grab that kid.
We're supposed to be up 15 minutes ago.
Alex here on the OKTV Today YouTube channel with another recap. In this episode, you will get to watch Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1, Episode 1 to 10. Let's jump into live action. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man starts in the well-known Queens, with the cityscape of New York visible in the background, with the Avengers Tower among the several buildings. Our narrative opens with Hudson Thames' portrayal of Peter Parker from What If. Peter Parker is late for the elite STEM-focused school's orientation day as he prepares for his first day at Midtown High at home. After thanking Aunt May, who is portrayed by Carrie Walgreen, for taking him in after he missed his train and remembering Uncle Ben's death, Peter gives her a hug and leaves for his first day of school. But at that moment, a Marvel portal opens, and Doctor Strange emerges in the middle of a conflict with an extraterrestrial being that resembles a symbiote. Interestingly, up until and including 616, this Doctor Strange doesn't seem to be from this reality or any other previously known MCU realities. Peter immediately tries to assist those surrounding him. The combat that follows leaves most people unscathed, but the school falls apart and the invaders leave a flying spider behind, which quickly bites Peter and knocks him unconscious not long after he meets Nico Minoru, his future best friend, who has been portrayed by Grace Song. The spider emerges from the portal as they are exchanging compliments, and as it closes, the web breaks and it settles on Peter's back. As the spider escapes on an invisible student's bag, it bites the back of his neck, causing the adolescent to faint. Peter became Spider-Man a few months later. After missing his train, he knocks up three robbers on the way to school. Rockford Bells High because Midtown is still being renovated while spotting a makeshift outfit.
Hey, get this clown on live.
Hey, you know what? That was unnecessary. Words on.
Let's see how funny you are.
In an hour or so. Don't forget.
Like I try to tell those guys, I don't really carry.
We find out at school that Peter is great friends with Nicole and harbors affection for Paul Pangan, his former nanny. As though juggling school and his role as Spider-Man wasn't sufficient, Peter is also trying to get his romantic life back on track by gradually gathering the confidence to approach Paul, his childhood infatuation and technically former nanny. Peter sneaks out of class to stop some bank robbers in a vehicle pursuit while dressed as Spider-Man, and then he returns to the school athletics field ready to ask Paul out. Lonnie Lincoln, the captain of the football squad, has already abducted her, Nico has informed him. As he daydream in class, we see Peter drawing the iconic Spider-Man outfit before he had to make up a reason to get out and hold a fast-paced pursuit. People appear to adore their local hero once he vanquishes the villains. Back at school, it is discovered that Paul is seeing a high school athlete named Lonnie Lincoln, who also seems to be far smarter than Peter thinks. Lonnie is obviously a kind guy who wishes to become friends with Peter. The show continues into a group science lab assignment when Lonnie asks Peter to be his lab partner, ostensibly because Paul is always complimenting Peter on his intelligence, and Lonnie shows a true scientific talent of his own. Despite Peter's jealousy, the two become friends. Though he presents a cheerful image, Lonnie has a lengthy journey back to Harlem and endures microaggressions such as a woman refusing to sit next to him on the train and the police pursuing him on his way to his family's apartment. Despite his family's obvious financial difficulties and the disdain stares he receives from police officers and other strangers just because he is black, Lonnie works hard, is always happy to help out around the house or with his younger brother's schoolwork, and maintains an optimistic outlook. Meanwhile, Spidey apprehends a thief who stole from Pizza Time, a restaurant that was called in clear reference to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. The wall crawler is given a pizza as a treat and leaves for home after he persuades the owner to give her a break, and because she recently lost her job and is struggling. He discovers a DVD player in the garbage while traveling and outside his apartment complex. He spots a really good automobile that might be owned by Tommy Stark, I believe. Even though May is at home, Norman Osborne is seated next to her and wants to speak with Peter.
But wait, did you say free pizza?
I don't know for sure.
It's okay. You know, maybe let her go just this once.
Your job recently when I saw the money.
The first episode honors MCU Spider-Man, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and the Marvel Spider-Man video games. I think the first episode of Your Friendly Neighbor Spider-Man does a good job of introducing the show. With a nice balance of Spider-Man action and high school drama, it introduces all of our major characters and their relationships while also setting the mood. With its unique fusion of contemporary animation methods and vintage comic book aesthetics, this series steers clear of basic plot and juvenile speech, in contrast to many short-form superhero animations targeted at younger audiences. Rather, it offers compelling stories, likable characters, and visually stunning action scenes. It caters to viewers of all ages by highlighting Spider-Man's amiable neighborhood demeanor. Toddlers, children, and Marvel enthusiasts of all ages will love the show's stylish animation and sophisticated narrative. Furthermore, Lonnie Lincoln, Eugene Bride, who is commonly known as Tombstone in the comics, is the most significant actor here, not Peter or Norman. Paralleling Peter's journey, he begins the series as the well-liked captain of the high school football team until making a poor choice that sets him on a different course. Our commitment is more than justified by this empathetic reimagining of a well-known character. Crucially, the fact that Lonnie, Norman, and Harry are black affects each character in a different manner and isn't only for show. In most cases, the animation is as good as the narrative. The images have a likable comic book atmosphere because of the combination of Alex Dodd's style animation and Steve Ditko's artwork. Amongst the voice cast, Hudson Dames, one of the voice actors, plays Peter Parker, or Spider-Man, a student at Rockford T. Bell's High School who, after being bitten by a spider, has spider-like abilities. Jeff Trammell, the head writer, loved delving into Peter's thoughts, how the many personalities in his life affects him, and how that affects his
you know what? That was
development as
unnecessary.
Spider-Man.
We're
Peter's
talking.
widowed aunt,
see
May
how
Parker,
funny
is
you
played by Carrie Waldron. Nico Minor, played by Grace Song, is Peter's best friend
try to
and
tell those
classmate.
guys
Lonnie
I don't really
Lincoln,
carry-
played by Eugene Bird, is Peter's classmate and the Rockford football team's captain. According to Trammell, Harry's father and Oscorp CEO, who also serves as Peter's mentor and man in the chair, Norman is not a hero like Tony Stark or Iron Man, who mentored Peter in the primary timeline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and his strategies may not turn out in everyone's best interest. Kara Connors, an Oscorp scientist who works closely with Peter throughout his internship, is portrayed by Zehra Fazal, one of the guest's voice actresses. In addition, she is a gender-swapped alternative of Kat Connors. Dutain, played by Jake Green, is an arsonist with advanced weapons. Daredevil, played by Charlie Cox, is a blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen with superhuman senses who dabbles as a masked vigilante. Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, is a wealthy businessman and criminal kingpin. In summary, Jeff Trammell's American animated television series Your Friendly Neighbor Spider-Man was adapted from Marvel Comics character and produced for the streaming service Disney+. It is created by Marvel Studios Animation and is the 12th television series in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by Marvel Studios. The show, which is set in a different chronology from the major MCU films and television shows, focuses on Peter Parker's early years as Spider-Man and his origin story. Norman Osborn teaches Peter instead of Tony Stark. Mel Zeuya is the directing supervisor, while Trammell is the chief writer. In conclusion, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is a web-slinging Spider-Man action and also shows the drama of a socially awkward Peter Parker, leaving both new viewers and die-hard fans both incredibly happy and wanting more.
This is the first day of the rest of your life.
So, you got a name, hero?
Real scientist?
So smart guy. You ready to get to work?
Sorry, Mrs. Everhart. Make your coat nice and shiny!
As the second episode opens, Norman's reason for going to see Peter is made clear when he brings up the Oscorp outreach program, which seeks to find bright young people and give them the chance to work with world-class scientists and specialists in one of New York's most advanced labs. Norman wants to offer Peter an exclusive internship after learning about his genius. The size and reach of Oscorp's robotic business already captivated Peter, who is thrilled to have seized this chance almost out of the blue.
I'm very impressed.
Oh,
You already accepted
real scientists?
Black crap.
strictly extra, my people, Peter. Details can be ironed out.
Nothing. I mean, what would I possibly...
It's Norman Osborne.
Norman promptly allays Aunt May's worries that Peter's internship may interfere with his academic pursuit by reassuring her that Peter's work will only be extracurricular. Peter tells Nico about Norman's offer, but Nico doesn't seem very thrilled since she thinks Norman is one of those sleazy people who hangs around with the wrong people to get money and power. On the first day of his internship, Peter chooses to visit Oscorp to observe for himself because he disagrees with her philosophy. Peter regains his composure when he sees Norman Osborne, the outrageously successful captain of the industry, standing in his living room. What's even more shocking is that Norman has been monitoring his academic progress and hopes to hire him for the internship project at his renowned company. Naturally, Peter, who has always been a scientific geek, accepts, but he soon discovers that his time is quickly becoming occupied with competing schedules. First of all, because the internship is extracurricular, he will be unable to take advantage of his lab partner and football star Lonnie Lincoln's friendliness or hang out with his closest buddy Nico. Even more strangely though, his position at Oscorp has brought in a whole new cast of personalities, including scientist Carla Connors and Bentley Whitman, as well as other interns the icy John, fat Colt, amiable Asha, and the narcissistic Amadeus Cho. Upon arriving in Oscorp, Peter encounters Asha, a Wakandan John Falcout, and Amadeus Cho, the three more teens chosen for the outreach program. Professor Whitman places all four of them under his stringent supervision and assigns them to various projects in order to identify which division best utilizes their talents. After the test, Amadeus, whom Peter really wanted to be part of, is sent to the robotics division, where he will instead have the opportunity to work on energy research under the guidance of Dr. Carla Connors. Meanwhile, Asha will be assigned to the aerospace division and John will be sent to quantum computation. The main goal of their study, according to Dr. Carl Connors, the equivalent of Dr. Curtis Connors, also known as the villain lizard in this world, is to discover a self-sustaining energy source similar to Tony Stark's or even Dr. Otto Octavius's arc reactor. Until Nico calls to see how he's doing, Peter spends the next several hours immersed in his studies and research.
I mean, what would I possibly...
Hey, park, Peter. This is Johnny at Wire. Just set a practice. Man, for real? Oh, then you should be the one focused.
Sorry, Mrs. Eberhard.
Who's that guy without doing some shady stuff?
After the school football team's stunning victory, star quarterback Lonnie and his friends invite Minoru and Peter to a celebration. Minoru is quite quiet and introverted, just like Peter, and she won't attend the party until Peter does. Despite Peter's assurances that he will arrive in time, problems quickly appear when he learns of a fire that has started in an abandoned building. Butane, a pyromaniac, is shown attempting to burn the structure to cinders after receiving payment from real estate tycoon hoping to benefit from the plot of land. Ironically, Butane began his fire display in the incorrect area in the first place. Pete defeats Butane after a protracted battle, but he skips his internship because he is too preoccupied with his hero routine. Minoru waits for Peter for a long time before growing impatient and departing the party, demonstrating that Peter is also unable to fulfill his commitment to her. A characteristic of Spider-Man that is demonstrated in the second episode is getting sucked into moral quandary. After Peter gets to Oscorp much later than he should have, Whitman begins questioning him, and Carla, despite her best efforts, is powerless to defend him. Meanwhile, one of Oscorp's guards shows up to tell Peter that Norman has called him, which makes Peter believe that he has lost the internship on the first day because of his careless behavior. As soon as he arrives at his opulent private chamber, a distraught Peter begins to beg Norman, but Osborne shows him a video of Peter putting on his famous costume before handling the fire outbreak scenario. thus revealing his identity to Norman Osborn.
He is your responsibility.
Clean the bathroom.
This is not a summer camp. I am not.
Mr. Osborne wants a word.
I'll get you. I won't lie. There's a...
And I wish that I could... Please, give me another...
When Norman questions Peter about his hidden identity at the end of the episode, viewers are left to wonder if this will be the end of Peter's future. Osborne, in my opinion, had already discovered Peter's identity and taken him to Oscorp to study his altered physiology. He only needed to surprise Peter once to force him to come clean on his own.
Was that a knockout?
He is your responsibility.
Clean the bathroom.
This is not a summer camp. I am not.
Mr. Osborne wants a word.
I'll get you. I won't lie. There's a...
Peter, on the other hand, is forced to tell Norman who he really is, and it will be fascinating to observe how their relationship changes if the show finally follows Norman's double trajectory. If you like this recap, make sure to check out the OKTV Today's YouTube channel, where we have hundreds of recaps just like this. If you want to see our newest episodes, make sure you subscribe so you'll get notification. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man immediately established itself as one of the greatest Disney Plus animated series ever produced, following two outstanding premiere episodes. With some innovative twists of its own, the novel reimagines the wall crawler while paying homage to the original Stan Lee and Steve Ditko version of the character. A hero who protects the weak is what fans have been waiting for a long time. This new Peter Parker never had the opportunity to meet beloved characters like MJ or Ned Leeds, unlike its Marvel Cinematic Universe predecessor. Moreover, the Vulture hasn't had an opportunity to create any trouble, and Iron Man never came into the scene, educate the adolescent with the superpowers how to be a hero.
You're Spider-Man.
So, you left me hanging at that jock festival. I hope your Oscorp thing was...
Quit? No way. What?
Kung Fu movie marathon tonight if you want...
What? Do you mind?
Oh, hey, Peter. The little guy.
Totally, perfectly, incredibly...
Glad you could make it. I trust you had no... I took the liberty of renting out the entire...
I will have a glass of water, please. Well, if you insist. Look,
by my security team.
Rather, Spidey is confronted with a significant conspiracy that may lead him to discover a malevolent individual supplying weapons to criminals around the city. The events of episode 3 further develop this idea. Our narrative begins right at the end of episode 2. When Norman admits that he knows Peter is Spider-Man, he tells him that his secret is secure and then he sends him home, promising to talk about it more later. After Osborne pays for a private dinner at a particularly pricey restaurant as a token of appreciation for Peter's excellent work as Spider-Man, Peter finally receives answers that evening after he has been spiraling out of control over the revelation and even dozing off while playing video games with Nico. After determining that the web fluid and shooters must have been created by someone younger than the typical Oscorp scientist, Norman established the internship program as a way to track down their creator. It turns out that Norman has been following Spider-Man ever since the wall crawler saved his son Harry in the first episode. However, Norman ended up discovering Spidey himself. Norman gives Peter access to all the tools he needs to make his job as Spider-Man simpler, but Peter declines since he doesn't want to put anybody else in risk. Additionally, he chooses to withdraw from the Oscorp internship, at least for the time being. Although Norman honors Peter's requests, he thinks he may change his mind and send him a sizable check to make up for his first day. After witnessing Aunt May packing up Uncle Ben's belongings to sell in order to make ends meet, Peter is really persuaded to stay at Oscorp after receiving this check. Lonnie Lincoln's financial troubles persist throughout the school day as he pays for Par and Peter's lunches to celebrate the three of them's recent successes, but is only able to get an apple for lunch. However, Lonnie's mother quickly calls in a panic, dragging Paul and Lonnie out of school. When Lonnie returns home, he finds out that his brother Andre was grounded after the cops caught him damaging property with the 110th Street Gang. Their mother was understandably alarmed. However, Andre leaves when Lonnie approaches his room to confront him. Eventually, Lonnie uses Find My Phone to follow Andre to the gang's headquarters, but Big Donovan, the gang's boss, won't let him go because he approached them first. Big Donovan gladly accepts Lonnie's offer to provide himself and his skills to the gang in return for Andre's release. In the midst of all this, a criminal pair named James and Maria have been tearing up New York with high-tech boots and gauntlets respectively that were given to them by the person who created the mysterious logo in the previous episode. Although the powers of their comic equivalents are more innate and less dependent on technology, these two are technically intended to represent minor Marvel villains Speed Demon and Tarantula. When Spider-Man intervenes to stop the criminals, he finds that the lethal pair appears to be able to withstand everything he throws at them.
That was close. It's me, Spidey.
Communication satellites to hack into your phone and scan.
Spider-Man versus Bonnie and Clyde. Round
However, Norman Osborne uses Spidey's suit's integrated police scanner to provide him with some guidance right before the web slinger looks down for the count. Specifically, that despite their obvious emotional attraction, the two have established a wide space between them, and that Speed Demon's boot must provide an audible signal before going into overdrive. In other words, individuals are prone to errors since they are not accustomed to the technology.
Keep an eye on each of you. Police scanner wired into the mask. Police scanner wired into the mask with a bit more durable fabric.
With this newfound understanding, Spidey swiftly captures the villains and returns to Oscorp. Norman, who seems to be as perplexed by the logo's origins, examines it on James and Maria's technology. Spider-Man dangling from the ceiling startles them after they see the infinity sign, which is really just a sideways A. Norman joins the Spidey squad, and when Peter realizes he might use some assistance after giving it some thought and considering what happened during the battle. The early disclosure that Nico is a foster child is the only thing potentially non-worthy development in this episode. When Nico learns that her biological parents were members of the Pride, a group of villains in the comics.
If you want Spider-Man versus Bonnie and Clyde. Round
She joined the other children of the Pride members to establish a heroic team named the Runaways, while also learning about her own magical power. Although there isn't any concrete proof that this Nico can use magic just yet, the fact that she has foster parents may suggest that this universe's canon includes a different version of her birth parents' past. Peter Parker is trying to give a presentation regarding his and Dr. Connors' magnetic generator at the start of the fourth installment of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but he keeps getting in the way of the vindictive Dr. Bentley Whitmer. Spidey accepts Norman's assistance in his quest to save the world in the third episode of the Disney Plus series. The story begins in episode 4 at Oscorp Internships, where Peter struggles a little bit to deliver his project pertaining to the energy research section. However, The bell saves the superpowered kid just as Dr. Whitman is ready to devour him alive for not being able to eloquently speak his mind. He meets Harry Osborne, a familiar figure, on the way to Norman's office, where he requests to meet him. Following a formal introduction and brief conversation, Peter enters the office where Norman informs him that tragedy has befallen the superhero community.
At my room at home,
So, let's do that.
Any superpowered individual mattered, and Captain Rogers and Barnes.
if they're fighting about, would that
The Sokovia Accords that happened in Captain America Civil War represent a legal agreement that states superpowered people would no longer be allowed to act autonomously and will instead have to account to government authorities, were passed by a number of nations. It turns out that the same thing happened to this branch of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So,
The Sokovia Accords were completely implemented and the Avengers are engaged in combat. Norman promptly responds that he will manage the matter and that it would be best for them to concentrate on testing the new supersuit. Despite Peter's concern about what this would mean for his future as Spider-Man, Spidey is transformed. His most recent Oscorp suit, which has a large crimson cloak, metallic boots and shoulder pads and tiny earwings, is mostly modeled after Thor's appearance. But little did Osborne know that the moment Spidey leaps from a cliff and his cape becomes strapped on a metallic fence, that's all it takes for Norman Osborn to start over. When Spider-Man was accused of murder, the wall crawler in comic books took on the name of the Hornets, which Peter's next outfit is nearly a perfect replica of. With the new wing pack, the superhero should be able to fly over the city with ease and in record speed. Peter, however, struggles to manage his new outfit and is struck by a bus while traveling. Norman had to design a new outfit after the latest and recent one failed yet again. The amiable local hero then dons an outfit that is reminiscent of the comic book's character Dusk. However, as anticipated, many are genuinely afraid of this new style. When Spidey offers a balloon to a screaming young child, the wall crawler is swiftly attacked by New Yorkers in retaliation. In a final effort, Norman designs a suit that embraces the entire Spider-Man image rather than eschewing it.
Great job today, everybody. Creepy. I didn't know what happened is all. No charge. It just so happens. Always talk to me if you need to, okay?
Get here now. You want to...
The Oscorp suit, a future Foundation suit, which has a stunning futuristic design with a black and white color scheme, is produced instantly. Then, as four thieves flee in a van after stealing a location, an excited Peter Parker swings over New York City in search of a chance to try his new suit out. A bus is set on fire in a major traffic collision caused by the most recent crooks in town while they are on their pursuit. The flames are swiftly approaching, trapping some individuals inside their automobiles and preventing them from escaping. Then Spider-Man swiftly chooses to let the villains go and concentrate on rescuing the populace. Thankfully, the hero saves everyone without suffering any significant injuries because his new costume is fireproof. 3 of the 4 criminals who were attempting to flee were apprehended by the police, but the 4th took the money and proceeded to see Octo Octavius, the Dr. Octopus himself, who had been selling weaponry to small-time crooks. The dramatic revelation doesn't end there. Peter swings his way back to Oscorp to unmask and share his enthusiasm about his new suit's success. He is unaware that despite Norman's best effort to alert him, Harry Osborne is also seated there, confused by the realization that Peter, the young man he had previously encountered outside of his father's office, is truly Spider-Man. In parallel with all this, viewers follow the development of Lonnie Lincoln's subplot. He struck a bargain with Big Donovan, the mafia leader, to extricate his brother from the 110th Street Gang when we last saw him. As a result of having to take his position in trade, Lonnie has been doing what Big Don says, which has brought him into contact with the Scorpion Gang, a brand new organization in town run by none other than Mark Gaggarn. Now that they have seen Lonnie's face, the Scorpions are aware that he works for the opposition. We witness Octo Octavius give Mila Masaryk a helmet that will turn her into unicorn that can shoot lasers and predict motions after it was shockingly revealed that he is the one developing weapons for New York's expanding supervillain population in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The fifth episode picks off where episode 4 left off, with Mila Masaryk seeing Octo Octavius to discuss a financial matter. Octo, a bright scientist with a nego issue, has been selling high-tech improvements to criminals on the underground market since he has continuously struggled financially and denigrated by his colleagues. Mila purchases a strong helmet from him in this instance, which increases her general strength and speed and emits a potent laser from her forehead. After learning Peter's secret identity, Norman feels that joining Team Spider-Man is the best course of action. Peter lately meets with Harry and Norman Osborne in Norman's office. Harry is eager to be Spidey's dude at the desk despite Peter's reluctance, and Peter is compelled to leave for school before he can continue the argument. When his football coach confronts Lonnie about his recent absences from school, Lonnie makes a commitment to improve and purposefully ignore Big Donovan's call. Pearl and the football team applaud his renewed dedication to the squad, but one of Donovan's enforcers quickly pulls him back into gang life during practice. Amidst of all this, Peter has become the talk of the school after Harry, who reveals to be more than just Norman Osborn's son but a social media sensation, dropped him off that morning.
Again for the ride. I know. I'm on time for once. I can barely. Okay, but why?
Being a vapid pretty boy,
I've clearly put a lot of thought into this, Nico.
out with a lot of people.
Peter and Nico talk about the ongoing superhuman civil war as they make their way home from school. Instead, Nico talks about the continuing superhuman civil war and how neither Captain America nor Iron Man are entirely correct. Peter is largely uninterested and only becomes tense when Nico says that it would be strange if one or both of them were using superpowers. Before heading off for patrol duties as Spider-Man, Peter makes a commitment to see a movie with Nico that evening to make up for how frequent he has abandoned her lately. Harry and Peter begins to connect over his suit's communicator as they both like Captain America, and Harry talks about his own difficulties with having few true friends because of his background. Before a more serious issue sends the hero reeling, Spidey catches a bike thief. The larger issue is Mila Masaryk, who broke out of prison with her new helmet, and her co-conspirators from the previous episode, Dmitri, Loxana, and Mikhail. Mikhail stays behind out of loyalty, but Mila, now going as Unicorn, battles Speedy while Roxana and Dmitri flee the resulting mayhem.
Is that all you've got?
Different definitions of fun.
It's nobody of all.
But look, oh, is it? Because you ever stand.
3 seconds? What they say about the itsy bitsy spider? No, I mean, she's referred to as a.
Perhaps it's time. I find.
But perhaps now is the time to escape.
Speedy intervenes to take the symbolic gunshot as police come to capture the two crooks, but Mila's laser attack on Mikhail swiftly betrays that allegiance. After the fight, Peter barely makes it in time to see the movie with Nico and invites Harry as well. Nico is obviously torn about his choice but wants to be okay with it. In the meanwhile, Lonnie has become entangled in a full-scale gang conflict between the Scorpions and the 110th Street Gang. Big Donovan is almost taken out by Mark Gagan, the Scorpions leader, but Lonnie stops him in his truck and the two gangs swiftly split off as the police show up. Back at the headquarters, Donovan thanks Lonnie by giving him a new nickname, Tombstone, in place of the superstar one that Lonnie hates. The 6th episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is a great way to start the second half of the season. The unexpected arrival of Daredevil is a major theme in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man episode 6. When Peter witnesses him breaking into the Oscorp building, Matt is the one who warns Peter that Norman could be concealing something. We start with Peter and Nico in history class, where Peter tries and fails to capture Nico's interest, much to annoyance of their teacher. However, she just gives him a warning since he is performing well in class and she doesn't want to put another kid on probation after Lonnie got kicked from football team for missing too many practices and classes. When Pearl asks Lonnie to talk to her about what's happening, Lonnie declines and leaves school early.
Yeah, made a good time.
I'm supposed to be the screw up, not you. That's in the first place. Look, I just been ready to take pictures and you're not there?
Returning to
Are you
Peter
sure
and
I'm
Nico,
not gonna be a
Peter
third?
regrets not telling Harry about his invitation to the movie, but Nico assures him that there is no need for concern. In order to do this, Peter informs Nico that he would want the three of them to spend the evening at his house. Nico grudgingly consents, but only if Peter refrains from making algebraic jokes about the trio. Lonnie, meantime, gets home and immediately tells his folks a lie about why he's coming home so early. Andre feels that Lonnie is making a big mistake and shouldn't have given up his life for him, but Lonnie dismisses his worries furiously and leaves the home once more. Harry worries that he will be a third wheel to Peter and Nico over at Oscorp.
I'm supposed to be the screw up, not you. As in the first place. Look, I just been ready to take pictures and you're not there? Peter, are you sure I'm not gonna be a third? Having fun.
Not.
But Peter reassures him that evening will be enjoyable. A well-dressed Norman Oscorp on his way to a charity dinner strongly concurs with this viewpoint. Aunt May drops the young kids off to Peter's apartment with a box of old VHS tapes, including several R-rated films that they will definitely ought not to watch at the top of the stack, and some munchies she managed to find. The well-meaning but out-of-touch affluent boy that he is, Harry, praises the delicious recipe for May's raisins and maintains that Peter's mom is a superb cook. When Peter clarifies that May is really his aunt rather than his mother, who passed away some time ago, Harry instantly apologizes and clarifies that his mother is also no longer with him. After their non-traditional family backgrounds don't work as a nice breakup, Peter, Harry, and Nico start looking through the movie box before deciding on the 1987 classic Predator. Bishop Security, which is led by Kate Bishop, also known as Hawkeye's mother, Elena, from the Hawkeye Disney Plus series, is another significant sponsor alongside Norman Osborne. The charity event turns out to be an attempt to help Lagos following the recent Avengers attack.
Mind me. I was just leaving. Make a mental note of it.
Man, we're so high up. This is... Thanks.
In any case, Norman talks with Secretary Thaddeus Ross, who is voiced by Travis Willingham, regarding possible government contracts and registering Spider-Man in accordance with the Accords. However, he insists that the information be kept under wraps and doesn't use Peter Parker's name just to be safe. However, given that Oscorp Tower has been broken into, Ross swiftly notes that Norman should likely improve his personal security before providing his services to others. In order to ensure that nothing is compromised, he asks Peter to act as Spider-Man because the primary security staff isn't responding. Even though he is now enjoying himself with Harry and Nico, Peter grudgingly accepts and leaves the two of them alone in their apartments. When Spider-Man reaches the Oscorp rooftop, he finds the invader to be a masked vigilante with a sleek black suit, which seems to be Daredevil himself, voiced by Charlie Cox. Daredevil warns Spidey that Osborne is concealing something before knocking him unconscious in this epic acrobatic struggle. Norman tells Peter that Octavius, who he has already concluded is responsible for all the recent villains with increased technology, must have recruited Daredevil. Octo and Norman used to collaborate, but Octo couldn't bear to share the credit, so on his way out, he stole a few bits of Oscorp technology that was still in development and used them to augment the village. Peter remembers that his pals are waiting for him back at the apartment as he complains about how hard it is to have to battle an old buddy. Speaking of the apartment, Nico and Harry appeared to click well. Peter was away since they both loved tarot and spiritualism. However, the relationship ended when it became clear that Harry was only interested in aesthetics and didn't share Nico's belief in these things. Nico argues that nothing could ruin their connection because they tell each other everything, but Harry clarifies that he doesn't want to interfere. Nico confronts Peter about Spider-Man incident when he returns to the flat, thinking it's all a dumb joke. However, Peter's outfit and sketches are missing from his bag. Too shocked and furious and deceived to reply, Nico quickly leaves the room, leaving Harry holding a pillow and frantically exclaiming, "I thought she knew." Lonnie leaves a corner store only to be followed by Camila in her vehicle. Donovan and the others agree to let him crash for the night, so he makes a hasty return to the gang's headquarters.
Happy. There's no question. This job because he knows he's in trouble. Really. Otto knows I'm...
However, as the episode concludes with Octo Octavius equipping McGugan with mechanical scorpion armor, it becomes clear that this was all a ruse to direct the scorpions directly to the hideaway of the 110th Street Gang. Nico Minoru found out Peter Parker is Spider-Man at the end of episode 6, but it wasn't because Peter informed her personally, rather it was because Harry unintentionally revealed the secret, and the secret was out finally. She wants to explain the entire story, but she stops talking to the web slinger even as he follows her into the school corridor. Pal Pangan speaks with Peter after noticing a problem between the two former pals. It turns out that Pal isn't doing well either, especially since she and her boyfriend, Lonnie Lincoln, aren't communicating as much. It appears completely out of character for the former football star to have been booted from the squad and to have been missing courses. But Lincoln's involvement with the 110th Street Gang is the only reason for his dubious actions. Paul gets an odd message from Andre requesting to discuss the entire Lincoln matter after speaking with Peter. Norman tells Peter that there may be a way to find Octo Octavius, the insane scientist who has been peddling sophisticated weaponry to low-level criminals back at Oscorp Industries.
Oh, hello there. Nico! Someone's here to see.
Okay, bye. You're buying. And just so you know, I'm sure.
It wasn't my place to tell you Peter's secret, and he just wants to help people.
It's about him moving on and leaving me with you. Look.
Who kept all this a secret from you in the first place? Money or likes. And if it...
Multiple explosions from an
Norman may be able to trace the energy used by the weapons back to the villain's hiding place if he can figure out what sort of energy source they are utilizing. Peter, ever the genius that he is, thinks of the solution right away: gamma radiation. With that clue, Norman starts searching the city for signs of gamma radiation, but he encounters a significant production of unstable energy. It turns out that someone is wreaking havoc with brand new large weapon that Octo Octavius created. That would be none other than Scorpion, a villain whose outfit was made in episode 6. In an attempt to stop the newest supervillain in town, Peter is forced to get dressed and swing across the city. Norman, however, is mainly concerned with finding Octo. Lists the world crawler is more concerned about locating the WMD that is strewn around the streets. The group is getting ready to fight the Scorpions and McGugan again at the 110th Street hideout. In the midst of all the preparations, Pearl shows up out of the blue and Lonnie Lincoln is also present. He informed her of all the recent events involving his older brother. Pearl was shocked to learn that his lover was indeed a member of the gang, as she had wanted to verify. After a brief argument, catastrophe befalls the two in the hiding place. When the Scorpion shows up on the scene, fully outfitted in his mechanical armor.
About the lady with the
Oh, yes. Use your environment.
Super fun, but I think it's time to wrap things. Well, he's all tied up, sir. That's like you.
He is ready to defeat his rival gang for good. After taking numerous individuals out of the picture and stinging a few, the supervillain turns his attention to targeting Lonnie. The situation appears dire and Lonnie is on the verge of passing out when Spider-Man shows up. He and Scorpion gets into a heated altercation, and the other members of the 110th Street Gang use the commotion as an excuse to escape. In the meantime, Harry Osborne pays Nico Minoru a visit in a separate area of town and tries to discuss the entire Spider-Man problem with her. Nico isn't particularly delighted to see him, and she is going to leave when Harry offers to buy her supper. Finally, the two exchange words. Nico expresses her displeasure that Peter has left her out of the loop each time he has put on his uniform and gone to save the city with Harry's assistance. She feels excluded. Norman makes an unsuccessful attempt to clarify the circumstances and the fact that he has no control over who Peter confides his secrets to. Harry assures Nico he'll just drive her home when he is given up. On the way back though, Nico confesses that she is a novice driver, and Harry seizes the chance to instruct her. Nico is behind the wheel as the two clumsily and slowly makes their way home. At a stoplight though, another motorist notices Harry Osborne beside them and begins making fun of the wealthy adolescent. Since she hardly understands how to drive, Nico becomes enraged and dares the other motorists to a race. She manages to win the race nevertheless by holding onto the amulet on her necklace and using a little magic. Despite her continued anger at Peter, she at last reconciles with Harry. Spider-Man and Scorpion are still engaged in battle and things are not going well. When the superhero approaches Norman for assistance, the tycoon is more concerned in figuring out Octo's location than helping his protege. In a startling turn of events, McGugan gains the upper hand and uses his mechanical tail to stop the web slinger. Norman does not send assistance until he is alerted by the alarm in the Spider-Man costume that something is amiss when Peter falls. Just before the hideaway erupts into a massive inferno, Peter is saved by the Goblin's glider which arrives at the scene. The struggle is far from over even though Spidey narrowly survives. Peter goes in and out of consciousness at the beginning of the episode while many medics heal his wound from the Scorpion encounter. He has a black eye, many scrapes on the face, and a broken arm in a sling when he eventually awakens. Norman points out that in addition to his other skills, Peter's physiology appears to have provided him with fast recovery. Norman denies Peter's request to return to the field to stop Scorpion and Octo, claiming that Peter still needs time to recover and that the authorities are taking care of the situation. In addition, the Spider-Man outfit was seriously damaged in the battle and Norman worries that Peter may not be as good as he wants him to be. He wants Peter to quit holding back since he can see he's pulling his punches while his opponents are not, or else their collaboration will
Tell her
cease.
you were spending the night at our place. Last, that maniac is a target.
Ready.
I'm afraid that's not an
Wear the bumblebee wings. I don't care. Or worse.
power of your abilities. You'll be unmatched.
Whitman and the other interns watch as Dr. Carla Connors shows them the magnetic generator, which operates flawlessly in large part because of Peter's calculations. She is worried about Peter's wounds and inquires as to whether his special project with Norman is connected to all the animals being sent to Oscorp, but Peter is as ignorant as she is. Aunt May is very upset about Peter's injuries when he returns home. He uses a skateboarding mishap as an excuse to keep from telling her the full truth, but he does wind up telling her how badly he feels like he failed and how much pressure he is put on himself to do well, even though she's done her best on her own, and Peter maintains that she is more than enough. May tells him that he is stronger than he realizes and that she wishes he still had Uncle Ben to speak to. Peter wakes up to many missed messages from Nico, who now believes he is purposefully avoiding her after having a nightmare that night about attempting and failing to reach her at the end of a long, twisting hallway that strangely shifts into flashbacks of being battered by the Scorpion. Peter apologizes and gives Nico a lengthy voicemail explaining why he is acting in this way and why he should have told her sooner. He is interrupted though by Pearl calling to inquire where he is since he needs to visit her home to complete their scientific assignment. When Lonnie shows up at the door, Peter and Pearl start to lose themselves in their studies and found family memories to distract themselves from their own recent problems. Although he is relieved that Pearl is safe and wishes she hadn't been present when the Scorpion struck, he is adamant about working with the 110th Street Gang to resolve the Scorpion issues since they stood by him. Pearl implores him not to go back to them, telling him quite clearly that if he does, he would never see her again. But Lonnie just says goodbye and leaves. Peter promptly cuts off Lonnie's working route after overhearing the chat in an attempt to dissuade him, but to no effect. Later, a SWAT squad shows up at the base to pull Octavius in while he is finishing up some crucial calculations. Octo defeats the agents with the help of built-in security and specially designed weapons like laser turrets, sonic grenades, and most importantly mechanized tentacles. He then whizzes out the front door only to be confronted by more SWAT and police officers, Iron Man and the armored Avenger, who declares victory.
The cavalry.
The following day, we see the 110th Street Gang meeting up with Dmitry Smedyakov, known as Chameleon, who provides them with information regarding where McGugan's hideout is
Me with prey. You've seen the good doctor's invention.
We're gonna even the play.
and how he obtained his scorpion suit from Octa Octavius. Lonnie gathers the other gang members together, seeing this as a sign that Gangan's time is running out. However, considering what transpired in the previous scenes, this is probably going to end badly for them in the next 2 episodes. Norman replies, "If you have to ask, then you are missing the point," when Peter asks him what he can do to improve at Oscar. By reminding Peter, with great power comes great respect, Norman reaffirms his opinion that Peter is limiting himself. Peter is unsure of how to react to this comment. Although Norman has a point, Harry informs Peter that Spider-Man must determine what Spider-Man ought to be doing. Just as they hear about a truck hijacking on the police corner, Harry shows them a new Spider-Man outfit that was inspired by Peter's designs. As Peter looks at the iconic red, webbed mask in the mirror, Harry tells the young hero to "Go get him, Tiger," and the show ends. The final showdown between Spider-Man and his greatest adversary to date, the Scorpion, in the 9th episode only goes one step further. The plot continues where episode 8 left off, with Norman paying a visit to his old pal in prison. Since Octo's departure, Oscorp Industries' owner boasts about how successful the company has become. They are even venturing into new fields like space exploration. Norman also disclosed that he struck a deal with Ross that allowed him to keep all of Octos's seized technology in addition to locking him up.
That's right.
Born. Me? Or you? I'm making believe you're more than this 1,000 of you.
Please, for once. You're looking good. Imagine it, Otto. Oscar.
Octo responds by saying that Osborne just ever hides in the background and takes advantage of other people's labor. The insane scientist then begins to strike the glass between them and says he will get Norman for this before the authorities take him away. The cop was seizing every schematic and piece of technology discovered in Octo's refuge across town during that altercation. The few surviving members of the 110th Street Gang, however, are not alone, as they observe from the distance while the weapons that may have enabled them to defeat Mark Gagan and the Scorpion Gang are removed. Lonnie tries to persuade Big Donovan, the gang's leader, that it would not be wise to confront the police in order to take the weapons. The advice is disregarded though, as an Oscorp truck is attacked when it is completely filled with everything that was discovered in Otto's lab. There is a lengthy pursuit scene in which 110th Street Gang members keep trying to smash into the vehicle. They eventually succeed in getting it off-road. Spider-Man arrived at the scene and began webbing the 110th Street Gang to turn them into the authorities.
Look, Spider-Man, it's not
Turnout though. There's only a 10th left.
open.
Just as they were about to finally get their hands on the cash, the superhero is as vivacious as ever as he abruptly stops when he spots Lonnie, an old classmate among the gang members. Another significant player joins the picture during this brief pause. The Scorpion Gang shows up to complete the task they began, accompanied by Mark Gargan in his mechanical costume. Big Donovan is quickly taken down by the Scorpion during a major gang conflict. Big Donovan declares that he will resign and cede his land because the odds are stacked against him. But the villain isn't going to let his victim live that simply. Spidey enters the fray and rescues the day just as Mark Gagan is about to deliver the last blow. Big Donovan chooses to leave the situation after spotting a chance to save his life in the midst of the mayhem. Lonnie takes charge and enters the Oscorp truck that has all of the Auto's technology because the few surviving members of the 110th Street Gang recently lost their commander. Lonnie inadvertently opens a bottle of gas known as Deox-3 while searching for a weapon to use against him. Tombstone eventually acquires the ability we all anticipated he would have, such as increased strength and durability as soon as he breathed in some of these guys. Back on the street, the situation becomes dire as the wall crawler makes effort to combat the scorpion but gradually loses. Lonnie exits the car just in time and makes the decision to confront Mark Gagan. The supervillain tries to puncture Tombstone's impervious skin, but to everyone's amazement, his mechanical stinger breaks. In a really amazing combat scene, Speedy and Tombstone team up to battle Mark Gagan. When the two eventually take down the Scorpion, it appears like triumph is finally within their grasp. But in a fleeting moment of distraction, the villain severes a rope that is supporting a number of steel beams that are raised in a crane just over Lonnie. Spider-Man's spirit is totally broken as the former football star is swiftly buried beneath the beams, possibly terminating his life forever. During an angry outburst, the hero recalls Norman Osborn's advice: with great power comes great respect. He begins using all of his might to beat the Scorpion up since he is determined to not hold back, as his master said. The supervillain is nearly stabbed by the Spider-Man's own mechanical tail, but Tombstone intervenes and instructs Peter to recapitate before he can cross the boundary. After all, Spider-Man is a hero, someone who should not be taking lives and who is admired by others. These remarks are effective, and Spidey only webs the villain so the cops can handle the rest. However, before law enforcement officers reach the scene, Tombstone and the amiable local hero says their goodbyes and part ways. Peter and Nico Minoru eventually cross paths again in an alleyway close to the location. The former begins to express regret for not telling her his secret sooner, but she also offers an apology for ignoring him, since Nico has some unique skills of her own that she hasn't disclosed to anybody. The two finally re-establish their friendship without any secrets. Norman assembles a special team at Oscorp Industries consisting of the heads of each department. The intern's work will soon be finished, according to Dr. Whitman, who also says that the internship program is doing exceptionally well. Furthermore, he said that experiments to duplicate Spider-Man's DNA structure are progressing rather nicely. After then, the camera moves to show a blue spider receiving a blood injection. This is the last episode of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. In some very unexpected ways, the last two episodes of the new MCU series help bring the entire season full circle. But the conclusion also foreshadows a thrilling future for many of web-slinger's friends and enemies in addition to the title character. Spider-Man's confidence has shaken to its core in the previous set of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man episodes when Peter Parker fought Mark Gagan's Scorpion, who almost killed him. Parker ultimately made the decision to select what was best for Spider-Man, a decision that is symbolically demonstrated by Peter finally receiving his iconic red and blue outfit despite Norman Osborn's desire for the wall crawler to cease holding back and demand recognition with his immense ability. The last episode of the first season of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man begins as many other Spider-Man episodes would have.
Just not by humanity. Thor's...
You have to think about what you're inviting here.
and become as formidable as the...
Mr. Osborne.
Norman, I'm putting an end to this.
You destroyed Midtown High. Your powers floating above us as if...
On! The only threat here...
Peter is really late. The kid with the superpower was meant to be in school with her friend Paul Pangan to deliver a project, but instead he is stopping a vehicle heist in a different area of the town. In an attempt to buy a little more time, Nico Minoru, the wall crawler's best friend, does her best to delay the professor and even offers to deliver her research fast. Thankfully, Peter eventually apprehends the villains and makes it to school just in time for his presentation. The only major issue is that the superhero chaos totally damaged the diorama he was meant to bring to class. However, Paul and Peter's teammate makes a fantastic presentation right before the end, and the three of them receive an A-. Norman eventually makes the decision to attend the internship program at Oscorp Industries, where he discloses that every intern's project was working towards the same objective. After that, he leads the entire group to a testing facility where Project Monolith, a portal to any location in space, is eventually revealed.
Norman, I'm putting an end to this.
You destroyed Midtown High. Your powers floating above us as if...
On! The only threat here...
Amadeus Chore's mechanical frame capable of suspending an Einstein-Rosen bridge is powered by Peter's magnetic generator. Moreover, Asher's star maps can identify a spot in space where the portal will be opened, while Giant's quantum tunneling method enables the gadget to function. Together, the four interns made space exploration history. Norman is about to turn the gadget on when a well-known face interrupts to turn it off. Through a doorway, Dr. Strange encourages Norman to abandon the experiment completely so that Earth is not subjected to the unspeakable horrors that await in the emptiness of space. Peter instantly knows the Sorcerer Supreme from the Episode 1 Midtown High event that bestowed his abilities. Interestingly, Strange has no memory of the incident ever happening. Norman directs security to attack the sorcerer and opens the gateway to what appears to be a void before the group can comprehend what is happening. For a few seconds, everything goes according to plan and the gadget creates a portal to a harmless area of the universe. But as Norman is commemorating the significant occasion, an intruder appears. It enters the Oscorp lab through the portal, frightening everyone as it goes. Scientists and guards swiftly leave the area, but Peter seizes the opportunity to transform into Spider-Man and go into action. The portal, which was the alien's sole means of returning home, is inadvertently damaged and shut down by Doctor Strange and the symbiote during their conflict. In addition, the wall crawler is flung into the next lab, which houses the radioactive spider that Oscorp produced in Episode 9. The creature created to mimic Spider-Man's ability breaks free from its cage and starts to wander the laboratory. Doctor Strange and Peter Parker swiftly devise a strategy to neutralize the extraterrestrial menace. While the latter diverts the intruder's attention, the former tries to fix the broken portal and open a gate to space once again in an attempt to send him home. Doctor Strange tries to manipulate his opponent into going back in time by using the Eye of Agamotto, but he unintentionally creates a gateway to the past, which he and the symbiote pass through. The spider that was created especially to mimic the wall crawler's ability travels back in time and bites Peter while the portal is open, setting him up for future hero status. Spidey eventually fixes the gadget and Strange and the symbiote go back to their own timeline. But the two heroes witness a terrible scene when the portal to outer space is opened once more. To join the other terrible creature, Spidey webs up to the smaller symbiote child that was in the lab and tosses him into the portal. Then, as the wall crawler webs up the entire apparatus and drags it down, destroying it in the process, Strange throws a barrier over the gateway to keep an additional alien from entering Earth. Finally, there is peace again and the heroes triumph. They were unaware that a little fragment of the symbiote had managed to get through the portal before its destruction. Norman Osborne discovered it after the dust had cleared. At Midtown High, where it all began, Peter Strange and Stephen Strange cross paths and exchange a few words. Since his actions would have impacted the lives of hundreds of eager pupils, the latter regret time traveling during his battle with the symbiote. Spidey reassures him nevertheless that no one was harmed and that he had acquired his abilities that day. Doctor Strange was responsible for the wall crawler's timely transformation into a hero through the time travel vortex. Back at Peter's house, Harry claims that if Norman hadn't tricked the interns into building a space gateway, the entire symbiote crisis may have been avoided. Rather, the group of brilliant people should have been allowed to create any groundbreaking technology they want. Nico suggests that Harry should start a new business so that his desire might come true at that moment, and he does just that. That's how WEB Worldwide Engineering Brigade is founded. And Peter's former partners Asha, John, and Amadeus Cho are on the list of possible candidates. In order to keep an eye on Harry, the latter accepts the email offer to join the new firm. It is then revealed that Natasha was snooping on the Osborns with Daredevil. While discussing major narrative events, viewers also discover that Octo Octavius intends to construct his famous mechanical arms in his prison cell. Nico Minoru can communicate with her departed mother through a ceremony, and Lonnie Lincoln is eager to bring the 110th Street Gang back to life. As if that weren't enough, we also witness Aunt May seeing a mysterious man in prison who happens to be Peter's father, Richard Parker. Since he is still alive, the wall crawler must be in trouble. It is also interesting to have Nico's magical secrets hinted at and Jane's identity as Finesse established, along with the revelation that she was working undercover for Daredevil. Similarly, after being exposed to Deox 3, it appears like Lonnie will become the comic's tombstone. Norman discovers a chunk of symbiote as Octo Octavius plots his retaliation as Dr. Ock should make for an entertainment-related storyline. Therefore, it's obvious that Season 1 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is just the beginning. If you liked this recap, make sure to check out the Occative with Today's YouTube channel where we have hundreds of recaps just like this. If you want to see our newest episodes, make sure you subscribe and click on that bell so you will get notifications.